Imagine this. You're driving through the middle of China, the sun's setting, the sky's turning gold, and suddenly, out of nowhere, a city rises on the horizon. Towering skyscrapers, perfectly paved highways, streetlights glowing, shopping malls, parks, fountains. Everything looks ready for millions of people. But there's no one there. No traffic, no noise. Not a single person crossing the street. Just the sound of wind brushing against glass towers and the echo of your own footsteps. It feels like you've stepped into a dream or maybe a warning. These are China's ghost cities. Whole urban worlds built from scratch, with ambition, precision, and staggering speed, and yet, for years, they've stood almost completely empty. I'm not talking about a few abandoned blocks. I'm talking about millions of apartments, hundreds of skyscrapers, and entire downtowns with zero residents. It's hard to believe, right? Why would a country build so many cities that nobody lives in? The truth is, far stranger and far more revealing than you might think. Let's take a walk through one. States. The first thing that hits you is the silence. It's unsettling. The streets are clean. The grass is cut. Traffic lights blink obediently over empty intersections. You peek into a luxury mall, storefronts sparkle, but there are no shoppers. A huge residential tower looms above every balcony, immaculate, but behind the curtains, darkness. You can literally hear your own breath echo. It's eerie, but also mesmerizing. Feel small in front of this grand, empty masterpiece, like standing in a future that never arrived. When China began its massive push toward modernization, the government set an incredible goal to move hundreds of millions from rural villages into cities. It was one of the most ambitious social transformations in history. To prepare for that wave of migration, they built and built and built cities like Kangboshi in Inner Mongolia, Chenggong near Kunming, and Tianducheng, the Paris of China, complete with its own Eiffel Tower, rose almost overnight. The idea was simple: build the city first and the people will come later. But they didn't, at least not right away. What was supposed to be the dawn of a new urban era became something surreal: glimmering towers, standing like sentinels in the mist, waiting for citizens who never showed up. And here's the crazy part. If you look around, nothing feels wrong. These places are beautiful. Wide boulevards, fountains, parks, futuristic museums. You could shoot a sci-fi movie here tomorrow without changing a thing, but it's not a movie. It's real. And it's not just one city. Some analysts say China might have as many as 50 to 60 million empty homes. Think about that. That's enough to house the entire population of countries like France or Italy, completely empty. So why did this happen? The short answer: growth fever. In China, local governments often depend on land sales to fund their budgets. The faster they build, the better their economic numbers look. For years, construction was seen as proof of progress. Developers rushed in, investors poured money into properties, and apartment prices soared even if no one planned to live there. Buying an empty home became a way to store wealth, a kind of real estate savings account. But this frenzy had a side effect: entire cities without souls. Imagine finishing a brand new high-rise neighborhood, 2,000 homes, and realizing only a few hundred are occupied, or building a financial district with marble plazas and fountains, and no businesses to move in. That's not urban growth. That's a mirage. Still, not all ghost cities stay ghosts forever. Some slowly wake up. Tianducheng, the fake Paris, was once a punchline. Journalists visited, filmed the empty streets, and called it absurd. But guess what? A few years later, families started moving in. Schools opened, cafes appeared. Kids ride bikes under the shadow of a smaller Eiffel Tower. It's still quiet, but not dead anymore. The same goes for Kangboshi. For years, it was the poster child of overbuilding. Now, slowly, people are trickling in. Apartments are being bought not just as investments, but as homes. What was once a symbol of excess might, one day, be seen as a city that was simply ahead of its time. That's the paradox of China's ghost cities. They might look abandoned now, but in a country moving this fast, empty today doesn't necessarily mean failed. Some are just waiting like seeds before the rain. Still, Walking through them today feels like witnessing the afterimage of ambition. In some parts, construction cranes are frozen mid-air, rust creeping along their frames. Street lights flicker over roads that no one drives. Apartment windows stare blankly, reflecting clouds instead of lives. There's something tragic and poetic about it. These cities are monuments to belief that progress could be built in advance, that the future could be summoned by sheer will. But you can't manufacture life. You can build walls, streets, parks, even dreams. But without people, a city is just a shell. And here's what really makes you think. This isn't only about China. Around the world, governments and investors chase the same mirage, bigger, newer, faster. But if the world's second-largest economy can create so much empty grandeur, what does that say about all of us? It's a mirror, a reflection of how we define success. We see progress in steel and glass, not in laughter or community. When I stood on an empty boulevard in Ordos, the wind carried sand across the pavement. The street signs were spotless, the crosswalk paint fresh. It felt like time had stopped. For a moment, I wondered, what if this is what our future looks like? Cities built faster than we can fill them, light shining over emptiness. And then I thought of the people who will one day move her, the first families unpacking boxes. The first child learning to ride a bike on these deserted streets. The first cafe to brew coffee for real neighbors. Maybe, just maybe, these cities aren't dead. Maybe they're just sleeping. So, next time you see a picture of an empty Chinese skyline, don't just think failure. Think of it as a warning and a promise. A warning about blind ambition, but a promise that even the quietest places can one day awaken. Because behind every ghost city lies the same human story. The hope that someone, someday, will come. If this kind of story fascinates you, the hidden places, the modern mysteries, hit that subscribe button. VA. There are so many more worlds like this waiting to be discovered. Places where silence has its own heartbeat.